Hello humans and other species, I'm Batsy, and today we are back on the island of something where dreams come true. Probably. We don't really have a name for it yet, so please suggest some cool ones in the comments below. Pretty please. A collaborative effort where I build your ideas and suggestions with the goal of making the coolest base for our civilization? For a group of friends. In today's episode, we will be making some sort of docking area where we will be parking, or whatever the nautical term is for it, with a functional fishing boat to store all of our belongings. It's also going to work as a fishing farm of sorts to get all of the food from the sea. And like with any good boat, we start with the tracks. The steam and rails added for Create adds these really neat phantom tracks that become invisible and only reveal themselves when you are holding one of the tracks in your hand. The idea is to hide the train bogie inside of the boat somewhere, and with the tracks being invisible, it should sell the illusion that it's a functional boat. So the plan right now is to build said dock in my current location and figure out where the boat is going to go. We can see on the map the existing track where we should eventually hook into to gain access to the public boat. So keeping that track in mind, we need to make a new line that moves around a little bit until it finds a nice spot to start fishing. Once it's done doing that, it needs to go back to the dock, so we will have to figure that out. And there is also the issue that the fishing boat might stay AFK at the dock for a long time, so we will need to figure out how to have the transport boat come to the dock without getting stuck behind the fishing boat. There is quite a lot of work to do and think about, so the first part we are going to work on are the tracks themselves. Let's head to the creative dimension and figure out how exactly is that going to work for us. Actually, never mind. Scratch that idea. I think it's simply going to be easier if we just plan it here on the map. I'm sure that the station block and signals aren't that complicated to use anyway. Alright, so as I mentioned before, this is the main line that is currently used for public transport. There's a station in front of our base, but it would be nice to have one on the island too. So I'm thinking that the dock itself should probably be an L shape, which will leave us room for a couple of stops, and they should be enough far apart to not bother each other. Then, we could have the public transport on the first one, with the fishing boat on the second one. Okay, this is slowly getting there. So my idea is to connect both directions into the public station and then loop it back to the main line. I'm not entirely sure how the public transport is set up, but that should make it work to either direction. This leaves plenty of room for the fishing boat to go outside to catch some fish, which is perfect. But in order to avoid making crossroads, or I guess it's probably called cross tracks. Never mind, that sounds awful. Maybe it's called cross lines? Okay, whatever. My point is, to avoid that thingy, we are going to move back the fishing boat in parallel to the public line. Then we connect it on the small stretch before the public station. And to avoid collisions, we can add a traffic light on both lines. I'm sure we could squeeze the boat tracks in a way that we wouldn't need any traffic lights at all, but this setup feels more clean, at least on the drawing board. My thinking is that having the fishing boat have to wait for the public transport is completely fine. The fishing boat should barely move during the week, because we either have it fishing for a couple of days, or have it back at base if the fish stock is high. So that only leaves a small time gap where the fishing boat is on top of the public stop, but that should only mean that the public boat will wait for a couple of seconds. Alright. That's enough drawing board for a month. Let's get to building something. And while I work on this, I want to take the chance to mention a couple of things about the recent changes I have been doing on my videos. I have some good news, or sort of good news. Last week I wasn't able to make a time-lapse because, since a recent update of mods in the server, the replay mod was glitching textures again. I say again because this is something I have fixed many times now. Long story short, the IDs and other things in the server are different than in my client. So what happens is that when I make a replay in the server and open it in my client, some blocks will have different textures and often it looks incredibly broken. In the past, I was able to identify what mod exactly was the offender, and simply disabling that one would fix the textures. But since the update that I couldn't find any mod combination that fixes the textures. Take this entire explanation with an entire bag of salt because my knowledge of servers is limited, and I don't want to spend an hour explaining why it happens. But regardless, I came up with some sort of workaround that I think it's going to be perfect from now onward. On my computer, I have an exact copy of the server. In fact, we are right now in a single-player world. I sometimes use this for testing, or maybe like doing a thumbnail, for example. So I go into spectator mode and grab the thumbnail really quick. I very rarely play here because it always means that later on I need to export all I have done into the real server, which is a bit of a pain to do. I would have to make a schematic, then go paste it into the server, and then fix all of the issues from the schematic. Let's just say it's a lot of manual work. So instead of dealing with that, I usually spend more time trying to fix the replay mod instead. But because now it's completely broken, I revisited my initial idea, and I came up with a different plan. If I play on single player, I can always export the chunks themselves into the server. That way it's really fast to export it, and it doesn't require me having to fix anything else after that. This was something I thought about previously, but I usually discarded it for two reasons. One is that I would obviously rather have the replay mod properly working. And the second is that it felt a bit cheaty, or more specifically, that it could be seen as cheating. Like, oh, you playing in single player, well, what's preventing you from enabling cheats and doing whatever you want? That's what I always thought. But yesterday, thinking about it made me realize that, well, I'm an operator on the server anyway. At any point I could go into creative mode and cheat in there, so what's the real difference then? And the answer I came to is that there is probably not much of a difference. If someone thinks I could be cheating, they would think so regardless of where I'm playing. So that's the plan from now on. If the video is going to have a good amount of time-lapse, I'm going to import the chunks into my single-player world, record there, and export it back to the server afterwards. And if there are no time-lapse that need to be done, then it doesn't really matter. I can play in the server just fine. I'm quite happy with this solution. It takes me seconds to export the chunks, and it lowers the stress of constantly fixing the mod and the wasted time that comes with it. I'm really trying hard to organize myself as best as I can, especially since I've been trying to improve the content a little bit, and I think this change will go a long way. That segment took me hours to make somehow. And I wish I was joking, but I genuinely spent hours doing the most simple doc. I have no idea where all the time went. I also took the chance to lay down the phantom rails. Oh look, that's the public boat that will eventually come to that stop on the left. It's such a cool boat. I can't wait to have the station properly working so I can move around the server. But as I was saying, the phantom tracks. I have already laid down all of them, or what I think we will need for now anyway. It's about the same we did on the drawing board. Maybe some shapes aren't exactly the same, but it's about the same idea. I also didn't move much further south with the fishing boat. There's a sea monument right there, and I thought I would rather not sail through it if I can avoid it. I'm happy with how it looks already though. I think it's going to be great. And one last thing before getting into building the fishing boat, because it's kind of important. The steam and rails add-in brings many new bogies to create, but it took me a while to figure out how to do it. Turns out that if you're holding a train casing on your hand, and you simply press Alt, it will display this little menu. We have the invisible bogie in here, but there are also a ton of different options for bigger trains and whatnot. Just remember to select the one you want to build. Click on the OK mark at the bottom right, then simply place the casing as you normally would to create the bogie. It's super simple once you know it, but it took me a while to figure it out. Now yes, let's go make that fishing boat. Editor Batsy, cue the time lapse. This looks so nice, doesn't it? I'm so happy with how this little boat turned out. I have done proper ships with sails and all of that in the past, but this might very well be the boat I'm most proud of. Okay, we have seen the exterior enough. Let me show you a couple of details I want to talk about, so we can take a look at the interior too. I had to put a fishing setup somewhere, and I thought on somewhat incorporating it in the back as part of the engine. It's a very simple deployer setup that I have done in the past. It won't get any treasure, but it will get plenty of fish. I also left it open so it kinda looks like machinery and whatnot. I think it's a neat touch for the back of the boat. The rollers at the back are meant to be like the machines they use to throw nets into the ocean. From the reference pictures I was using, the roller felt quite close to it. Sadly, it won't throw any nets, but it looks cool, and that's all that matters. I also made an anchor with an anvil, which I thought was a cool touch too. The chain obviously looks spot on, even if the pulley has a different color rope. I'm holding the anchor in place with a small copycat, otherwise the anvil would fall to the ocean floor, so I'm wondering if we should try to make a cool shape under it so it looks like a proper anchor. Then we have the tires on the sides, which I think look insanely cool, to be honest. I was trying different gray blocks, and when I saw how cool it looks with wool, I fell in love with it. The last detail is the smoke, which is also part of steam and rails, and it adds so much to the ship. I wish it could be set to only white smoke, but I still think looks fantastic. Alright, that's enough for the exterior. Let's take a look at what's in here. At the very front of the ship is where I decided to place the controllers. It doesn't have a whole lot of reason for this to be here, but I had to fill this with something, and it honestly looks interesting. We will normally be driving on third person anyway, so we can see the whole ship, so it doesn't really matter where it is. At the opposite side of the ship, we have some sort of combination between the engine of the ship and the net setup. I'm obviously no boat expert, so I have no idea what's going on here. I added this loom because it kinda looks like a net of some sort, so that makes some sense. And then I added a whistle here because, well, it's a whistle. What other reason do we really need? It's cool. Downstairs there is a very sad bed. I haven't done anything under here. I'm waiting to see if I come up with something that we are missing. I don't want to fill up all of the gaps and then realize we missed a crucial crafting table or something. Inside the cabin there is basically all of the storage. All of the toolboxes have already been moved here, which is always fantastic. Then we have all of the barrels for the actual storage for the base. It doesn't look like much, but once added all of the stack upgrades, these few barrels will be able to store a lot of stuff. We can of course access to it with the terminal, which I hope to look into getting a wireless one soon. Oh right, there is also another toolbox down here. And a ton of crafting tables from the chipped mod. It looks pretty hideous, but we don't need to stare at it too much. All in all, I really love this little boat. It's such a cool addition to the base. It's not massive, but we have everything we need. And it looks super cool, doesn't it? Alright, enough of that. You can only praise your own build so much until it becomes cringy. The majority of you suggested to work on the mine/quarry/cobble generator of sorts, so that's what we are going to be doing next episode. After that, we have the option to build the tree farm shaped like a tree trunk of sorts. We still need to deal with the shipwreck we talked about, though I'm still holding on that one in case a friend of the server helps us with it. And we could also make a beach cabin or a beach building of sorts. Potentially to cook and sell all of the fish we are now going to get with the boat. Make sure to leave a comment with the project that you would like us doing next. And while you are down there, I would love to hear your suggestions about random things we could build in the future. It doesn't have to be something with a purpose, doesn't have to be a farm. Anything at all is fine. Suggestions like doing a radio station, for example, that kinda makes sense for an island. Anything that would make sense and look cool, even if it doesn't have a use, we can always give it a use later on. But this will have to be it for this episode. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. Now if you would excuse me, I'm going to take this boat for a ride, see if I get any fish near that ocean monument. I know I said sea monument before. I'm not dumb, okay? I'm just not very smart either.